Stephen in Florida who wants to talk about some different interpretations of the Bible. So, Stephen, can you summarize your question or comment to us?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I first would like to bring up with what Annie said. God is not truth. You could argue that Christianity, it has 45,000 different denominations globally. So you could say it is the most divided religion known to man. Therefore, you could argue that Christianity has the less truth out of any religion due to the expansion of different divisions or denominations. If Christianity was truth, it would be reality. It would just exist. People would be able to find it without a book or a prophet or somebody trying to teach them what reality is. It would just exist. And so I did call in for a different purpose, just to bring some light onto if we took the Bible literally. But I would like to now challenge your Christian callers or your religious callers, mainly Christians that believe that Jesus died for them. What tangible proof do we have that Jesus' sacrifice even was accepted by God? The only thing we know about life, the only certainty of life is death. And if Jesus paid the ultimate price that we owe to God, and that was Semitic death, why are we still born into a sinful world? And if you believe that, why wouldn't you be out sinning as much as possible so that Jesus' death isn't in vain?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I kind of want to address the topic you called about because I'm sure the theists in the chat can call in with their responses, but I don't want to assume their perspective on this issue without them being around. But I am very curious about your original topic because it just seems interesting to me.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Other than Adam and Eve having three sons who populated the world, you find interesting stories in the Bible. Like, for instance, if we use Jesus' baptism as a reference point, 3 days after Jesus' baptism, all the apostles write that Jesus goes into the wilderness to resist the devil for 40 days. But John doesn't. John writes that this is when him and Jesus are at the wedding in Canaan. And him and Jesus are both there, along with Jesus' mother, Mary. And John never says who's actually getting married, but Jesus is having such a great time that this is when he performs his miracle of turning water into wine. Now, they would have scarce drinking water, so you can take that as you want. Jesus turning what little drinking water they had into more alcohol shouldn't really be deemed a miracle, but that story doesn't matter until we get to the Last Supper, where the beloved disciple, who the Christians will say they don't know who that was, places his head on Jesus's breast. But this could also be the disciple whom Jesus married, considering the disciples didn't know where Jesus was, all but John. Because when he's also on the cross, John writes that Jesus then entrusts his mother, Mary, to John in John's care. And we all know that, obviously the text tells us Jesus would have had a stepfather, Joseph. So I was telling the screener, at the point of Jesus' crucifixion, Mary would have been at least 21, 22 years old. So it's possible, given Joseph's history of liking little girls, that he just moved on to another virgin 13-year-old girl when Mary was 21. She might have just been too old for Joseph.
I don't know if I accept that interpretation because, as far as I know about Jewish culture back then, I don't think that they would have easily just let somebody move on to somebody else. I think they had some, I don't know if they were specifically laws, but they definitely had customs around like monogamy and staying with a spouse. I know that they would often like take additional wives, but I just don't know I don't know if I have the expertise even to weigh in as much on this particular interpretation, but it's definitely interesting.
Right, right. I mean, it's more of a whimsical outlook because I am an atheist. So it's more of taking the Bible literally, how funny and childish the stories are. For example, of Adam and Eve having 3 sons who populated the world, and how do we have 4 blood types that are divided into 8 groups, negative and A, B, and O, negative and positive, depending on what you inherit from your parents. This is all impossible from 2 people. And so, the Bible's refuted with basic science, but, I just wanted to call and say, if we just took the stories literally, just reading the Bible, we could assume with the disciples not knowing where Jesus is in the story, except for John, and with John giving Mary, his mother, on the cross, I mean, you could assume that he was the beloved disciple that the Christians are always saying that nobody knows who that was.
Yeah. Secular Spirit, any thoughts?
I always wonder about this kind of thing with the Bible. So obviously I'm an outsider, having grown up a Muslim, so I'm not that familiar with the Bible. But what really stands out to me is the sheer number of contradictions and variations and details of Jesus's life. And what's most interesting to me about it is when we're talking about literal truth, the ways that a lot of Christian apologists get around it, where, sometimes you just have to engage the text and interpret it, and the truth will come to you. All of them were accessing the truth, but from different angles and perspectives, but it's still the truth. So what matters in the end is whether it's literal truth, metaphorical truth, allegorical truth, whatever you want to call it. The Christian is stuck having to believe that it's true, or it was true at some point, or that there's an essence of truth through it. So I think it's reached a point where 2,000 years later, no matter what you throw at them, what you throw at Christians, they'll find some kind of way to justify their belief in the Bible. And I don't know what the solution is to tackle that beyond asking for critical thinking and reason, and to look at it with an actual open mind, not through the confirmation bias of belief.
Yeah.
Exactly. Read a different book.
Oh,
yeah, definitely.
There are those Christians who are like, I only have one book, and that's the only book I need, right?
And most of them don't even read it themselves. They pay somebody to interpret it for them. And, and then this weekend I told my aunt the story of Lot, and she didn't even know that Lot was in the Bible. And I was like, well, that's a big character in the Bible to not know.
Yeah, especially some of the unsavory parts of the story of Lot, and afterwards with his 2 daughters. There's stories like that where I don't really know what you're supposed to take away from them. Are they just there for you to just kind of be awestruck? Are there morals you're supposed to take from it? Because it's scary if you do take it that way as a moral lesson.
Exactly, sir, because the moral lesson that I got out of that I take away, is that God justifies incest with the first family having 3 sons. They either have sex with the mother or with the daughters that the Bible doesn't say Adam and Eve had. And then we get a story of Sodom and Gomorrah where the same deity kills all these homosexuals. And this problem-solving, all-loving deity is about to kill the entire world in almost no time in the grand scheme of time, with an entire flood. But he has to let you know how much he hates homosexuals specifically before killing the rest of the world. So, if we're looking for things in the Bible, from the first few stories, we gather that no homosexuals died in Noah's flood because the deity already killed them before the flood happened.
Yeah, lots of interesting stuff, and I agree that the book isn't super reliable, and there's a lot of contradictions. We are going to move on though. But if you have any more thoughts about this, we do have the Discord after show after this. If you would like to pop in and continue this discussion, I'm sure we have lots of people in the Discord that'd be happy to have a group discussion about this as well. So thank you for calling in, and
I listen to you guys. Thank you.